Hello and welcome to the Jackcast, your Swansea City podcast. I'm Matt Brocco and I'm joined as ever by Steve Carroll. Evening, Steve.
Evening.
We've got quite a bit to get through. I'm afraid we'll probably pre-warn you, it's probably not going to be the best, most upbeat podcast in the world, but we'll try and get through it. We all get through this together, shall we? Let's start off with something positive, Steve, and I think we can all call it positive, which was Swansea City's deadline day business, because we were coming into it thinking there's a few holes in the team straight away. We still hadn't replaced Manning at left wing back, desperately crying out for that. Also needed centre half cover. A few irons in the fire, weren't sure if they were going to get over the line, and a lot of the deals did, and it was really positive.
Yeah, it feels as if I think most of our targets on deadline day came to fruition. I mean, I think that the big one obviously being Bashir Humphreys is somebody that we've targeted, haven't we, all summer. I think he's been, someone that we really wanted, and we were waiting to see if Chelsea would loan him out, and obviously we've got him right at the end, so that's a big positive. I think the other ones, we may well have targeted other players in those positions, I think, if I'm honest, throughout the summer, but when it came down to it, then we've got a few players in. Certainly now I would say that there's good strength in depth. I mean, whether the first 11 is brilliant, I think we'll find out, won't we? But there's certainly now competition for places. We're not looking like last season and thinking if there's one or two of these get injured, the replacements, you're looking in the youth team basically. So we're not in that position now, are we? There's good strength here and competition for places, so everyone needs to up their game, really, don't they, I think?
Yeah, definitely, and I think on the face of it, that should mean the players then will have to look over their shoulder a little bit and make sure they're putting in good performances. We will talk about those performances just after this, but as you say, Bashir Humphreys comes in on loan. He wasn't, he was going to be available, then they were going to keep him. There was just a big mess around what was going on there. We did manage to get him right at the end of deadline day, which is a real positive because we quoted him for so long and he's so highly thought of. Obviously featured for Chelsea already this season, so he's someone they were very much thinking he's part of the fan plans for the future. I'm likening that sort of loan to like a Mark Gehey, Steve, where it's not like someone out in the wilderness at the club. I mean, they wanted that player as a big part of the future. He's going to have a big part in the game, as Gay's gone on to be a Premier League regular now, and they expect the same for Humphreys.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of surprising really how he was on the bench, wasn't he, earlier in the summer? And you look at, obviously, Chelsea have just been buying everybody left, right and centre, haven't they? But even then, he's still been on the bench, so a bit surprised by that, really. But I think Chelsea have probably done the right thing loaning him out, and hopefully maybe the thing with Guay a couple of years ago was unbelievable for us, really. Hopefully maybe played a part. And obviously they benefited from it as well, and they might be thinking the same thing now. So yeah, I mean, look, the truth is, I think whenever you sign someone on loan who's quite inexperienced, it's a little gamble, isn't it, to a point, but he does come with rave reviews, and and we've got to be realistic as well. Defensively, we've had quite big problems, so we needed reinforcements. It was an area of the team that we hadn't really strengthened, I would say, so to do something was long overdue, and we need him to hit the ground running, unfortunately, because obviously we're not in a great position.
Yeah, it would have been nice if they could have all played on the Saturday, but still had to have them all registered by midday. We didn't have anyone registered by that point, so we couldn't get any of them on the pitch. But he comes into the team later on in the day. Earlier on, a little bit of business went on. Christian Pedersen, who had previously had a stint at Birmingham, and he played many games there, and he was away. Where was he playing? Where did we sign him from?
Was it Cologne, Germany?
Possibly, I knew it was in Germany, but it was Cologne, was it?
I think he's been more of like a backup.
Do you think
option.
So? Yeah.
Yeah, but I think even in terms of our targets, if you know what I mean, I think he's been available most of the summer, and we've only acted on deadline day. It's as if I get the impression we may have wanted other players, and now we've we acted then on deadline day because maybe the other ones had gone. I mean, and if I'm honest, I'm thinking the same thing with Jamal Lowe. I mean, Bournemouth have accepted a loan deal for him with no obligation to buy, and they've not extended his contract. It's almost as if nobody else wanted him, and they thought, right, well, we've got to get some of his wages at least off the books because nobody else wants him. So, I think those two they're not, I don't think they're top targets personally, but doesn't mean that they obviously won't do well for us. Hopefully they will, but that's certainly my thinking. with those two there, we may well have wanted other players and couldn't get them, and we've acted at the end because it's a case of there's not many others available.
Yeah, and long-time listeners of Jack Castle know I was never the biggest fan of Jamal Lowe, but he seems in a team that is devoid of pace since Obafemi leaves and stuff like that, and over the last couple of years, Dan James before that as well, we've really lacked anything in that area. So if he's available, and the fact that we've managed to talk it round from a 6-month loan to a 12-month, as you say, where he then goes out of contract at Bournemouth, really does feel like it's just one of those things that it just suits both parties. We got someone there who will perhaps be able to stretch opposition for the season, and Bournemouth take these wages off their bills, so they were able to jiggle things around elsewhere. Pedersen comes in, as you say. I think his signing, it was probably agreed in principle right at the start of the summer. Probably the terms were agreed with Cologne, and his personal terms were agreed as well, I feel, and only triggered at a point where we thought, right, we'll get him in, he's an extra body, he can add something to the squad, because that one's been rumbling on since the window opened, really, isn't it? The big money one on the deadline day was Josh Tymon, who joined from Stoke. This one came a little bit late in the day. Didn't know about this one happening, and I think it was until deadline day, really. There was talk of us being in for him. There's a couple of other players being bandied around as well. Those came and gone with rumours everywhere, all over social media. This one stuck, and this is when we got done. Somewhere between 2 and 2.5 million, we think the eventual fee was. And Stoke were... hasn't been in the team and been featuring so much now recently, but did have high hopes for him before. I think they wanted between 3 and 4 originally in terms of money for him, Steve. So hopefully he can live up to the billing. I think he's come in with a bit of a attacking fullback kind of reputation, likes to get his opposition player and get across into the box. Similar in some respects to Manning, perhaps.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, it's certainly I would say a key area for us, because Ashby has been playing right wing back, forcing Key to left back. I mean, I'm sure Ashby will talk about it in a bit, but he hasn't been great so far. So I think if we have the option of moving Key to the right back or right wing back position and Tymon to the left wing back, it will give us a bit better balance and hopefully will contribute to better performances and results. So I think that is along him and Humphreys are probably the two that I'm looking at that are going to be regular starters for us, and I think it'll be for the other two to try and force their way into the team, really. But as I said at the start, you're looking at us now and you're just thinking there is a lot of depth in this squad now. We did not have that before, did we? I mean, I know we'll talk about maybe one or two who've gone, but we did even sign Nathan Broom, that goalkeeper, didn't we?
Yeah.
If you look at it, which from my point of view just tells me that they've got no faith whatsoever in Andy Fisher, which is obviously a view that me and you both share. So that's fine. So they, but last season they've given, essentially we have 3 first team goalkeepers now, and you think beyond January we had one and they signed a very cheap backup who was never going to play, and as we know the number one was nowhere near up to it. But that just tells you that there has been a change of tack, and we are not short of positions now, but it does bring a different type of pressure, whereas Martin was cut a little bit of slack probably because he was left short. I'm not sure Duff is going to have the same situation.
It's interesting because if we focus on the attackers with the arrival of Jamal Lowe, we've got 4 or 5 they've got different styles, different ways of playing these strikers. We've not got 2 of the same. I mean, you could look at Liam Cullen, who'll run all day, run the channels for you, and do the ugly things, but also is a poacher in the 6-yard box. And Yates would probably be the sort of player who would, in theory, suit Duff's game the most, because he would be big on the high press. He'd like to get involved in tussles with the defenders and try and keep pressurising them. From what we've heard and seen of his time at Blackpool, that would certainly fit into what Duff likes to play. So I would think that would really suit. Jamal Lowe gives that raw pace. You've got Janelli then, who again he gives you that width and pace, and you've got Kaharovic then, who can he's giving you that frame, that opportunity to get the ball forward to someone quicker. He's very good with his feet, I find, technically, for someone who is quite bigger in size.
I've heard that saying before.
Big, good feet for a big man.
Has there been a striker who's like a target man who's not good with his feet? I'd like to know that. It's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, it's an old saying. But yeah, he's there's lots of different attributes there. So in theory, and the point I'm coming around to, quite laboured in it too, so is that there's plenty of game changers there. Where you play a certain strike force and you're thinking it's not going well, it's not working, you've got 4 or 5 different characters on the bench who would then be able to go, right, he's going to offer us something different, he's going to offer us something different. You just need to make your choice between what you've got available. As you say, with the options being there now, the excuses become less, the opportunity for slack becomes less, and people are expecting results, or maybe just to see a little bit of more ideas come through in fruition now.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, you do make a good point with that. I mean, I suppose you could look almost at, like, remember when Kenny Jackett was here, and the subs would be Akinfenwa for Fallon or vice versa, and just think, well, it's not really working here, so what you really need to do is just change things around a little bit, even if it's
like a Leon Knight for that kind of swap.
Change that's it. Or even if it's a case of you might bring, say you've got 2 wide players, but you might bring a wide player on, and then the wide player who keeps up, who stays on, then maybe switch him to the other side and put the new guy on the side that he was on. Just little things like that sometimes. Just give the opposition something a little bit different to think about, and I think that is one good thing now about the strikers. They do seem to have different attributes. So, in that sense, it is a good thing in terms of potentially changing the game when things are not really going away. But, I mean, you look at it now, there's a lot of depth here, isn't it? It's actually going to be hard to keep everybody happy, I think. There's going to be a few high-profile players not making the bench.
You would think so. We were hoping that would be a positive problem. We'll just quickly go over the players who left the club over the last couple of days of deadline day before we talk about performances. Liam Cooper joined Leyton Orient. Brandon Cooper, joined Leyton Orient on loan. Joel Cottrell joined Stockport on loan. Ewan Morgan left permanently. Our understanding wasn't keen on signing his first professional deal with the club, so he left. Brentford was the club of his choice. Undisclosed, the club say is the highest they've ever received for a player not on professional terms, so I wouldn't know what players they've let go and had money for in the same situations before, but it sounds like we've had a good bit of money from Brentford for him. And Stephen Bender, who me and you were saying probably would have ended up playing every game last season had he not picked up that injury in January, ends up leaving the club again. Another player we believe wouldn't sign extended terms of the club, and with his contract up in the summer, seems to be around about £1 million to Premier League Fulham. You'd think you can't really blame him for wanting to back himself and try and make that move, and the club get quite a good sum for him.
Yeah, I think realistically as well, I don't think Bender's that close to fitness, so you think he could easily be another couple of months off playing, and if you then won't sign a contract, I don't think we've done a terrible deal. I am a little bit disappointed because I did think that he did have a lot of potential, and we'd seen bits of it last year. There was the odd mistake, but I mean his overall goalkeeping I felt was good. As sometimes with his feet he might let himself down, but I mean you think to the time when he first came in the team under Martin, he was quite rash, wasn't he? He certainly curbed that, and would we have made the playoffs if he hadn't got injured last year? I think
definitely.
That's fairly realistic, isn't it? So it is a shame, but look, the main thing is we have actually covered ourselves with goalkeepers. We're not relying on Fisher now, so it is what it is. I mean, I think Cooper and Cottrell going on loan. I'm always a big fan of youngsters going out on loan if they're not going to be involved. So I think if they play, that'll be great for us.
And decent level they've both gone to as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we'll be keeping an eye on those two and Josh Thomas, I think, won't we? And Ewan Morgan, I think, is quite disappointing, really. Someone that we've had high hopes for, as you say, there's a good fee for him and there's no doubt to sell on. So we could still potentially profit, but he did seem like a real prospect, and so to lose him is disappointing. But I mean, if he wanted to go, again, realistically, the club couldn't do a lot, and they've done the right thing, really. But it is a shame, isn't it?
It is, but it does mean that we finished the deadline day with 13 incomings over the summer, which is a hell of a turnaround for a club that couldn't muster anything for several windows over the past few years, and a couple of managers have suffered that fate. But so we were thinking, right, we've got players in positions, we're not playing square pegs in round holes anymore, and we're going to start to see some sort of fluidity and tactics come into our game now and see us really kickstart our season. So let's talk about the 3 defeats because we're going to start at Preston and 1-0 up to 2-1 down. Really positive for my mind first half hour or so. Steve, I thought we were playing some really nice stuff and zipping the ball about, and I thought, okay, yeah, maybe today is the day where we pick up that elusive first win and we kick on, and all the negativity around the manager and the club at the moment will dissipate away. And then half time came and went, and we just completely packed in, and we were just deserved losers in the end for my money.
We looked comfortable. That's the most frustrating thing about it. We scored a decent goal, and honestly, until they equalised, I thought we were doing all right. We didn't really look in much trouble. We had 1 or 2 other chances, maybe not brilliant ones, but I felt Key in particular down their right hand side, our left, was causing a bit of trouble, and I did feel as if we could have a decent chance. But then we've conceded. I think the first goal, to be fair, is a good header.
And Darling shouldn't get beaten, though, should he? In my opinion, as a
that's I think that is a fair comment. The second one is just basic again, and
he's unmarked.
This is what's bothering me. I don't think they created that much. They didn't have to. So score twice. We're too easy to score against. Way too easy. I don't really understand it at all. And the fact is, if you carry on conceding the way that we are, then the writing's on the wall. You're going to struggle. Because you can't, concede like that. I mean, we'll get on to it. We've conceded 9 in 5 games, and that's without last season's goalkeeper, who was consistently costing us. So if he was in that, what would be going on there? You know what I mean? The defence has got significantly worse, looking at the stats, isn't it?
So I don't understand, and it's going to be a comment reserved for the Bristol City talk, but I'll just mention it now that we're talking about it, is the defence is not stopping the opposition creating at will. Bristol City, we'll talk about in a second, this was the most obvious example. So it's not working. So we're creating a formation which is 5 at the back, essentially, or 3 if you count the wing backs up the field. It's not working with 3. Maybe players are getting confused and covering each other's positions and both going up for the same headers and all sorts of who's marking who, because there's 3 for 2 then going forward in a lot of instances. Then you need to stop playing 5 at the back. Go to something, and we talked about this under Russell Martin, and it worked under Russell Martin. He changed it, and all of a sudden then we suddenly looked like a lot more stable, a lot more solid, and felt like we could actually push on because we weren't as porous at letting opportunities come for the opposition. So to see that then, us go and concede chances at will, it really put in a position of thinking this has to change. He does change it. We'll talk about Bristol City in just a minute. I think at this point at the Bristol City game, maybe too much had already happened and the confidence was gone. 2-1 defeat to Preston. They've had a great start to the season, so it's not like it's necessarily like, oh my god, this is a landmark result for us to lose it there. Then we bring Bournemouth down in the next round of the Cup, and you're thinking we played well in the first round, and again we seemed to play well against Bournemouth for most of that game, barring a 20-minute spell perhaps at the start of the second half. I thought we matched them, and I thought we gave as good as we got.
To be fair as well, I think they, like in the second half, I'd say they did give us a going over, but it was after they brought their big guns on, and look, in that situation it's going to be difficult, and you wouldn't. I'm not going to criticise us for that, to be honest with you, because I think it's just there's levels, and they had players that were above ours, and they made it count. But in the first half, in particular, we did play well, didn't we? Yeah. It wasn't just the fact that we were winning. We put some nice moves together, and I thought actually some of the squad players, like Janelli, Well, maybe I could say he's a squad player probably because he hasn't been fit, has he? But certainly the players that came into the team did actually make a decent difference, like him. So that was reasonably encouraging. It's just that they then made changes, and yeah, in the second half it was a lot harder. But you can accept that. I don't really have a problem with it. Still think we maybe were a bit naive with 1 or 2 of the goals we conceded, but I could see actually some positives for that. I felt considerably more positive after that game than probably every other game so far this season. Certainly more positive than after what we saw on Saturday.
Well, so we'll come on to it then, because you obviously come off a result, but we did lose, but we did show plenty of mettle, and once we'd won behind, we'd obviously equalised against Bournemouth relatively late on. Then they went and scored again in injury time, and still we could have equalised again. We were still showing enough about us to put them really under pressure. So I was thinking, do you know what? This never say die attitude, let's keep coming, let's keep going. Was refreshing to see. I like to see that fight going into the Bristol City game, thinking now is the time to get all these small little bits we've seen in every game and gone, that little bit was good, that little bit was good. Let's get all those pieces and put them together and put in a performance. Well, it didn't happen, did it?
No, it most certainly did not happen. A lot of things to talk about here, I think, isn't there? We can start off by saying we did score a really nice goal.
It was with our only attack, but yes, absolutely.
Patino's put a lovely ball from the Cullen. To be fair to Cullen, you always, when you look at him on a one-on-one, and you think, yeah, you do back him, and that's what he does. I've got to say that other than that, I didn't think he was very good at all. He couldn't, the ball couldn't stick to him, and he kept giving it away. But look, finishing wise, and instinct for being in the right place at the right time, that's his game, isn't it? And that's why we were winning. But we were, to put it mildly, very, very lucky to be winning at half time, weren't we? I mean, they gave us a proper going over. Bristol, I think that's what worries me the most, is that I never associate Bristol City as a team that outplay us, really. I mean, it's never been their type of game, but they really did on Saturday, didn't they?
Yeah, they had a couple of disallowed goals in there. Everything that was coming at us, they missed some sitters. We had Rushworth to thank for a couple of smart stops as well. And you're thinking, we looked at each other at one point and thought, we're living a blessed life at the moment. I think we really don't deserve to be ahead in this game, but we'll take it. And you get to half time and you think, well, that was their big chance. They bossed the first half and somehow gone in 1-0 down. Duff's going to have a chat now. He's going to make sure that doesn't repeat second half. And in fairness, he changed it at half time. He did change the shape. He did change the way we were going to try and approach the game. But it didn't stem the flow. It didn't stem tide. Now, I'm trying to kind of see why that was the case. Because the last thing I want to associate with anyone playing for our club is a lack of effort, down in tools, not playing for the manager. The thought of that repulses me because I think player power in football is obscene anyway, and I would hate to think in our club that we're a victim of this as well. But despite the change, we didn't get close to Bristol City again, second half, and they just kept coming, and once the equaliser came, Steve, the writing was on the wall. We were losing that game.
Oh, massively, yeah. I mean, at half time I was thinking, well, we're very, very lucky to be winning this game. I hope it's a wake-up call, and obviously Duff made the one change, then Janelli for Ashby, who was not having a good game again. But, I mean, they've scored only straight after the break, and then it wasn't long after they've got in front. To be honest with you, right, I felt they backed off at 2-1. They could have gone for the juggler there. They could have won that more comfortably. They probably should have, because that could have cost them. But I honestly thought we were a team that didn't know what we were doing. It was so bad. Like, look at someone like Wood, for example. Was his head in the shed from like a potential move to Southampton or something? Because he could have got Norton sent off, couldn't he, in the first half?
I think, in my opinion, I've only seen it back once, I thought it should have been a red card. In my initial view of that was he was going through on goals. So, I thought we were lucky to get away with a yellow, and you add that up with the disallowed goals and stuff, and you just think, and the sitters that they missed, and you think that could have been ugly. That could have been 4 or 5, and that is a big concern because we haven't necessarily had the pasting which we deserved, and I'd hope that no one around Swansea City would have thought look, we lost that game by a single goal. No, we lost that game by every facet of the game. We lost every duel, we lost every 50-50. It was just nothing we were coming into that game and we matched Bristol City on. It wasn't any sort of contest, and that is a big concern.
Yeah, I think what worries me the most really is that, as you say, nobody left that ground thinking that was in any way sort of a travesty. The only travesty was that it wasn't more. Whereas at least like last season, that Birmingham game which drove us up the wall, where we were winning 3-2 and obviously we've lost 4-3, we should never have happened, right? But in general, I came out to that game, I was annoyed that we lost and that we'd thrown it away or whatever, but I was also thinking, we played so well, this is so unjust, if that makes sense.
It was the timing of that one.
Yeah, but we played really well, we should have won and everything like that, but at least I was thinking with that we'd blown it and we'd made some naive mistakes. But I just thought the entire game was just crap. There was no injustice to that game in that sense. I could at least look at that one and say there were positives, and we had to cut certain things out. Whereas I didn't even know where to begin with the weekend because it was that bad.
I think what do we say? We said this from the start when we were talking about people who were negative about the Duff appointment before we'd even played a game under him, and I thought that's massive overkill. And we said middle of October is an international break. By that point, if we're not seeing improvements and we're not seeing the road that the club is going down, then you can justifiably say, well, you've had a chance now to implement the ideas. We talked about the start he had at Cheltenham, the start he had at Barnsley, and how it takes his while to get his ideas across. The big red flag at this point is that throughout saying that, and when we were talking about it in weeks gone by, you were looking to see, right, okay, that was a 1 out of 10 performance. The week after, we could still lose, but I'm hoping to see it, maybe at least a 2. And then you're hoping to see a 4, and then you want to see building blocks. We spoke about this under every manager, really. We said the same with Martin. You want to see the building blocks of building towards something better. We spoke with Martin about how in that case, a lot of the time he was quite streaky and we weren't seeing the building blocks. This is, at the moment, Steve, at another level, because these performances appear, on the face of it, to be getting worse, and they don't strike me at all like the sort of football that we were told we were going to be seeing under Michael Duff.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's always the concern. You just look at it and think we're getting worse. And obviously, we know the next fixture is a very big one, even if some people don't agree with that. So I am concerned that my instinct is starting to tell me that we might have the wrong man here. Not necessarily a bad manager, but someone that's not the right man for us. I mean, he's obviously did well at Cheltenham. You can't say that last year at Barnsley was bad either. They were, they were very close to winning that playoff final. And then I think if you lose a playoff final, it's hard to say you've had a bad season, and you've had a frustrating one. Yeah. But that coupled with those comments about I'd rather win promotion than lose to Cardiff twice, and he
just misread the room massively.
Completely wrong. But not just that, right? After what I've just seen, our best chance of promotion is from League One next season. Like to think that a man is talking about promotion, and I'm thinking, mate, if you lose to Cardiff, the knives are going to be massively out for you. What the hell are you saying that for?
Not just that. I mean, he's not won a league game yet. To see us beat Cardiff, Russell Martin had this, by the way. Cardiff can be a catalyst.
Massively.
Such a catalyst for an upturning form, and Martin saw it. And every Swans manager in my time has seen the fact that Cardiff is so important to the city and to the fans that you get behind them for this one, you build this up as the biggest game of the season, and you win it, and the feel-good factor can carry you through for 4 or 5 weeks. Even if you lost the next one in the case of after the Lord Mayor's show, you'd have the feel-good factor, the chance in the stand, blah, 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 and everything that goes around with beating Cardiff. We've done it so many times now. It leaves you with that kind of positive energy about the manager, about the players, about the club. I think he's massively misread that, and given by the way we haven't won anything yet, to say then this one isn't an important one, well, really, right now, I'm thinking this one might be your last one. If you don't win it now, after the comments you've made, you've downplayed it, fans are pissed off at that, you then go and get humbling at Cardiff, the knives will be out. People will then turn. And you'd have to wonder then, even though I'm saying October is the great time to make an assessment, the performances have gone downhill, the manager's comments are baffling in the circumstances, the fans are starting to get pissed off with the things he's saying, but also the fact that we're not doing anything on the pitch to justify why he should be here. It's so confusing. I think the complete opposite of what he said was the right answer.
Yeah.
Overplay it, if anything.
And obviously, though, as well, another thing to add, he has been backed in the transfer market. So then you don't even have you can't even then go off and complain the board. Because you won't have that either on his favour. I mean, he's been very stupid. I mean, obviously he's from Cheltenham. I mean, they don't have a rivalry. Maybe that's why he doesn't sort of get it. What was it, Forest Green or something? Sounds like one of the worst rivalries I've ever heard in my life. But they throw in Forest Green
at each other.
they're chucking vegan burgers at each other or something. But just why do it? I mean, I think the Cardiff seem to have a few managers, haven't they, who've downplayed it. And that's wound them up. We've been quite lucky. Everyone down here usually gets it, don't they? I mean, they understand what it means to us. And like you say, it can be a catalyst. I mean, let's be honest, Martin, a lot of his time here was a bit uninspiring, didn't go great, the knives were out a bit. And then we'd have a derby, we'd win it, and the pressure lifts a bit. And
you buy yourself 4 or 5 games.
Oh, massively you do. And the goodwill of the people in it. I mean, look, the fact is, how will Russell Martin mainly be remembered? As the king of the South Wales derby. That's a fact.
In the history of the derby. 12 years now, is it? And you're looking at that and you're thinking, right, nobody has had a stranglehold in that derby in 112 years like he has.
Well, obviously, we haven't looked back to the records books, but there might not be another manager who's actually won 4 in total. I'm not sure there
probably isn't.
Probably
isn't.
Yeah, because of I know years ago, obviously, you used to have managers would stay for longer and stuff like that, but there can't be many who've won 4 or more. There can't. I mean, Dave Jones managed a lot of South Wales derbies. He only had 2 wins, for example. So then, it's hard to win these games. And, but so I immediately feel as if this manager won't inspire it. But so we're relying on the players, a lot of them, who've also not played in this fixture before.
It's hard because I want so much for this to work, and I want him to play the football which he sold to us. I feel almost like Steve Cooper did, Steve, where I feel like we were told we were going to play a certain sexy style of football under him, and it was very pragmatic and relying on the brilliance of Ayew and the trickery of Jamal Lowe in a lot of the games, and the defence were just solid. And I knew had Bidwell and Roberts and were just chipping in and providing the balls in. So I felt like that was a little bit, and I remember when we were talking about Cooper at the time, I remember saying I felt like we were sold a bit of a pup here because we weren't getting the sort of performances we were hoping for. And this is what I'm feeling with Duff. I feel like from the start I was positive, optimistic about playing a sort of football which he's done at his previous clubs. And you mentioned a few minutes ago about your instinct telling you that he's not the right man for the club, but he's not a bad manager. Well, from all I've seen, he's a bad manager right now. I mean, I know you can't discount his previous record and say, oh, that did happen at Barnsley and that did happen at Cheltenham, so give him credit for that. But what are we doing? What are we doing?
No, I based on what we've seen, I do agree. He doesn't look like a very good manager, but you have to say that there is evidence that suggests, even if it's not at this level, he is a decent manager. So, it's not like Robert Page with Wales, where there is nothing to suggest he's a good manager. This guy has won a promotion with Cheltenham and kept them up, and he has gone within a playoff final of a promotion to the Championship. So he's clearly not a bad manager. But what we are seeing here doesn't suggest that he's very good so far, does it?
So let me add a different angle to this then. What we were understood, one of the big things of Michael Duff Ball was the high press. He wanted to get at the opposition, not let them breathe. I've seen no press at all in most of the games. So, right, there's something fundamentally wrong there. Either Duff, and we've heard this in pre-season, this was a massive red flag for me in pre-season. I probably mentioned it on this podcast. I don't like when he said players didn't want to do certain things, so we've made adjustments to how we're going to do things. Bollocks to that. Players don't want to do certain things, drop them. Leave them out of the squad. fuck it. We can't start bowing to players saying, I'm not going to play the way you want to play. If that's the case, name them, shame them, get them out. I would hate player power in that instance. But if we're not pressing, it's either he's not wanting to press or he's wanting them to and they're not. Both of those things really scare me, because it's either the players down in tools and not playing for the manager, or the manager simply not having a clue what he's doing. And neither of those are good.
No, exactly. That's the problem, isn't it? I mean, we just do look like a team that doesn't know what it's doing, and that's what worries me the most, because, you know, if you don't know what you're doing, how the hell are you ever going to achieve anything? So, I don't know. I really don't. I mean, like I say, managers do deserve time, unless there's, you know, real issues behind the scenes. I mean, you know, there's got to be a degree of patience. We could really do without Cardiff being next. I think that's definitely fair to say, isn't it? But I know if we win, it's different. But I mean, as things stand, I can't see it. I really can't. But the problem comes then we're away to QPR, a team who I also don't think are very good. And we're home to Sheffield Wednesday, another team I don't think are very good. If you don't get a win in one of them three, I mean, where is a win going to come from? He's going to need a result just to lift the pressure, I think, even if the performances are not very good. He's just got to buy himself some time. I mean, you mentioned Cooper there, and I think Cooper, he sold us something and then didn't deliver on it. However, Steve Cooper did deliver results.
Yeah, he did.
Didn't he?
Yeah, it's all the fan base in half, because it was style of substance.
As we know, we didn't particularly like it, but the fact is, if you don't have style, you have to have substance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this guy's got neither at the moment.
It's scary. Look at this, to take it off topic. I broke my phone yesterday, or my phone broke. So I've had to use an old phone for now, once my phone gets repaired. But my lock screen is Obafemi famously celebrating in front of the Cardiff end when he opened the scoring up there in the first double, Steve. And you think of how that game was built, about us making history, how much it would be incredible, and the players bought into it. And I just feel like right now, by the way, this isn't a Cardiff preview pod. We're going to probably do a 25-minute, half-hour one next week for that, closer to the time, hopefully with a bit more of a positive outlook. Maybe we can drum something up between now and then.
Robert Page will cheer us all up, don't you worry about that.
Well, I'll try my best not to be too downbeat next week. But in terms of the Cardiff game, I know you say it's the worst time for it. It feels like a bad time, because I'm worried about how Michael Duff's going to approach it following his comments after Bristol City. But in other terms, if you're going into a derby game in bad form, it's almost like things that I'd be more worried if we'd won 4 on the bounce going into Cardiff.
I get that. Do you know what I mean? It's just more that it's not just results.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is a simple thing here, and I'd always say this before a Cardiff game, is that you just pile the pressure on the opposition in the press. You just go, yeah, well, we've won 4 in a row, so you know the pressure's not on us. They've made, you know, Ramsey's come in and all this type of thing, and just basically say, you know, that they're the capital, all the usual Paul Abendonado stuff, you just pile the pressure on them. That's the simple thing that you can do. But I mean, look, it's a concern. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't. I don't think I'm going to be feeling particularly optimistic when I board the bus at whatever stupid time they make us go on a week Saturday. But look, we will see. You do never know, do you? So but you know, I think we're both concerned, aren't we? I think that's fair to say, based on what we're seeing, what we're hearing. You know, but we do have new players to come in. That's got to be a positive. But we've got to stop conceding goals. 9 conceded in 5 games.
Could this be it? In your mind?
As in,
we lose 3-0 up there.
You do never know, do you?
Could that? Because my opinion is, the way it's gone, and it is getting worse, that would be the ultimate humiliation, getting stuffed up there. We know we've stuffed them plenty of times to know how embarrassing that is for them to have to do it.
We've been lucky. We haven't, we've been on the right side of it, haven't we? And we've, even when we've lost, usually it's been
narrow.
It's been close, and quite often they don't have the lead for very often in these games. I don't know if you've ever noticed that.
No.
And they're behind in them a lot. So for it to go the other way, would be a bit of a culture shock for us, because we're really not used to it. But look, inevitably at some point they are going to beat us. I think we have to be realistic about that. It does go in spells. We've been very, very spoilt in this fixture. Look, if it goes badly, and not just with the result, but performance and everything like that. Look, the knives will be out. This game means the world to us. If it goes badly, people lose their minds, don't they? Let's be realistic about it, especially in the heat of the moment after the game. So, look, who honestly knows? But there's games thick and fast. There's 6 games in 22 days, starting with Cardiff, isn't there? You know,
I
4 of them.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I was going to say 4 away from home. I don't think they are. I think there's. Or no, I think actually, 4 away from home. Isn't it? So it's Cardiff away, QPR away, Sheffield Wednesday home, Millwall away, Norwich at home, and Plymouth away. Yeah. And if we're honest, a lot of them are not teams that I think are amazing. None of them are on parachute payments, are they? For example?
But I would say, in my opinion, and I know we could argue this, but if we were playing a QPR or someone like that, I would be more concerned because we'd have more of the same. It would be another team to approach, another way of playing, or another how we're going to go, and we're going to put up the same turgid display because there's no edge. At least the next game has. It terrifies me because it has so much edge to it. We need to approach it right.
Well, it's a hero or zero potentially, isn't it?
Yeah, but what sometimes I think a manager could do with is he's got no excuse to hide from this and play it. It's going to be blood and thunder. It's going to, the fans are going to be up. It's an evening game on a Saturday night. There's going to be drunk fans in the stand. The atmosphere should be good, and you cannot then shy away from that. And we have got players who I think would relish that sort of. I mean, look at Jerry Yates, for example. I think he would relish that sort of game.
Well, I'll be honest. If you don't relish this sort of game, I don't think football's for you, is it?
No.
I mean, a Saturday night away to your arch nemesis, and you've got a chance to obviously put one over them again. But for a lot of these players, who are new here, it's a chance to be a hero, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's how you have to look at it. I mean, surely as a player, you've got to be looking at these games, and I'm sure nearly all of them are, and thinking, God, this is what it's all about, isn't it? A derby game away, under the lights. Give me a piece of that, full house.
Yeah.
Maybe even be an atmosphere up there. Never know.
No, don't go too far now.
Well, put it this way, they've got a chance of all day in the pub. If it's not rocking in there, they may as well give up.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But stepping away from the Cardiff for the moment, and on a wider scale, Steve, how do you see this playing out? I mean, I was confident of the building blocks being in place to see us after game 8 or 9 start getting the results to match improving performances, and then, as it happened at Barnsley, going on a crazy silly run and ending up around the top 4, 5, 6 or whatever it might be. We know from this league already that it can be anyone's. It has been anyone's for the last few years, and I expect this season as well, whilst there are big teams in here, Championship always serves up ridiculous results. It doesn't take a lot to climb this table. Are we going to be able to do it under Michael Duff, in your opinion? I
don't think it's going to happen. That's an instinct thing now. I'm just got bad feelings about it, just based on what I'm seeing. Some of those comments, like you say, that he said, not a good feeling about it. I just feel like it's the wrong man for us. That's the truth. And he should in theory have these 6 games. I mean, if they don't go well, he could be gone. That's my instinct. Look, if he can get a win at Cardiff, then obviously he's going to buy himself a fair bit of time, and he should be okay then. Certainly if he gets another win in that little cluster of fixtures. But I'm getting bad vibes. I think he could be on borrowed time. It sounds mad after 5 games, but just get this feeling that it's not right. And if it doesn't pick up, he's in a situation where that Cardiff game, if it goes wrong, could just turn up the heat that bit more. I
think it might be that. The way I see it is, you say he's not the right man for us. I know I mentioned this earlier as well, but if you talked about Pulis at Stoke, or Nathan Jones, Luton's Nathan Jones, and you say, well, he's, I can see what he's doing, but he's not the right man for us. Like, Pulis at Stoke got fantastic results.
But you'd probably say Nathan Jones at Southampton as well, wouldn't you? That was
well, he didn't get the results.
Well, there, no, he didn't. But it didn't. What I mean is, it didn't last long. And you'd probably say Nathan Jones, arguably, much as I can't stand the bloke, he did only have 9 games. It's not.
Oh yeah, no.
So that's got to tell you that behind the scenes as well, it wasn't right. I mean, some of the comments that he was making, throwing people under the bus, and all this type of thing. That's what led to him being booted out earlier than he probably did deserve. And I mean, but I think that's what it's going to take problems behind the scenes for Duff to be fired that quickly. isn't it? I think obviously we don't know so much if there are major problems behind them. I mean, if there are, they'll come to light quite quickly, I would have thought.
But this is the thing, and if you had a manager who was playing a complete non-brand of football but getting results, you would say, good manager, not for us. Whereas I can't even say, I can see what you're doing, I just don't want to see it play for us, because I can't see what we're trying to do. And that is the biggest red flag, is we're not seeing that steady improvement and that steady kind of progression on the pitch. So as you say, to end on a positive, we'll wrap this up because we do want to focus solely on the Cardiff game next week. There are players that come in. If all four could have played on Saturday against Bristol City, I'm not convinced it would have made a big difference because we were just battered all over the pitch. However, they got 10. Oh, also, before I forget, massive congratulations to Bashir Humphreys as well, who's in the full England squad for their game on the weekend. So when you look at the quality of players that come into this team, the balance that's coming into this team now with the signings we've made, and the options in the likes of Jamal Lowe to, bring a different aspect to the opposition to think about, he can change it now. He could potentially go Janelli and Lowe on the wings.
That's definitely something
up front, or Jerry Yates, or whatever it might be. You can have a different formation now. You can try something different. But the only positive I've got to hang on is we've got quality to come into this team, and hopefully that, with a couple of weeks on the training ground and the biggest game so far this season coming up, is a perfect cauldron for a kickstart, I pray.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully. Obviously, I know Humphreys is with England, isn't he? Cabango's with Wales. I'm not sure if there's one or two other youngsters that are away as well.
I think Woods is with the under-21s again.
But, a lot of the players in theory should still be here. So hopefully they, that little break and respite. I'm sure they might have the weekend off or something, but a chance maybe to work on things without the pressure of a game this weekend. That could be seen as a positive, couldn't it?
Has to be.
Yeah, so I think that's certainly something we've got to sort of cling to, isn't it? Because performance-wise, I don't think it can get much worse than the weekend.
Well, I'd love to have been a fly on the wall after Bristol City in that dressing room because, as I said, I think that's the worst performance yet. The performances are getting worse. The heat is turning up on Michael Duff and what is trying to happen and what he's trying to do. If he hasn't kicked boots at players' heads and thrown chairs in there or whatever, then he's clearly looking for an exit from the football club, because for me, having watched that for 98 minutes or 100 minutes or however long it was in total, that was an absolute catastrophe. So if he's got anything about him as a manager wanting to manage at this level, there will be big changes.
Yeah, there will, because we've had a bad start. I mean, his reputation's on the line as well. I mean, if he gets sacked from this job, I'm assuming his next job could easily be certainly towards the bottom of League One, maybe even League Two, and then it'd be very difficult for him to ever get back to this level. So, he needs to do what he feels is right now, because if he doesn't, then it's his head on the chopping block, isn't it?
Has to be his way now. It has to be his way. No more hybrid football. No more. We're going to try and make adjustments because the players don't want to do certain things. They won't do it your way, they won't play, and it has to be that way. You can't judge the man on playing something he doesn't believe in himself. He has to start playing 3 games ago in reality, Steve, didn't he? He has to start playing the way that he likes to play, and fingers crossed we see the sort of thing we were hoping to see under Michael Duff in the next game, which is obviously massive. We will be coming back next week for a preview, but middle of next week we record it, so hopefully it'll be out around about Thursday in readiness for the big derby up the road. But I'm sorry it couldn't have been more positive. Did you expect it to be positive after the shit we've just seen?
I think this is what people want to hear, to be honest.
We did a podcast before where it lasted 15 minutes. We did well to make this one last 50 and drag it out as much as we could. But join us again next week where we'll be focusing on the Cardiff game and how on earth we stop the rot and turn this around for the better. But for myself and Steve, thanks for listening. Bye-bye.